Can you hear me? Yes. So my name's Emer Gillespie. I'm the founder of Clerkenwell, and I'm on the steering group for Interior Design Declares. And we have three of the founding members of Interior Design Declares here with us. We've got Kat Hoad, Oliver, Heath and Simone Suss. And today we are just kind of celebrating the fact that Interior Design Declares started 5 years ago. So it's just a nice opportunity to look back at what has happened in the last 5 years, any of the milestones that the group have achieved, and kind of really to also kind of see, well, would you like to become a signatory and kind of learn more about what goes on with the group. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and then at the end, please do feel free to ask any questions and find out more about what we do. So when IDD was founded in 2021, what did you hope it would become, and how does that compare to where we are now 5 years on? Kat, can I ask?
When we set up, we wanted to promote real, actionable change at a time when, particularly for our profession, the climate and biodiversity emergencies weren't really being discussed that much. And certainly, even if you knew about it, it wasn't very easy to do anything about it. So that was the main aim.
Yeah. And obviously kind of bringing together your experience within the industries. There's been 355 signatories so far, which is amazing. But which moments along the way have felt kind of most meaning to you beyond the numbers? Oliver, can I ask you that?
Yeah, I mean, 355 is great. You know, it's a fantastic number, and we're all delighted that we're sort of starting to make a difference, and there is a sort of slow change in direction, particularly because we are entrenched in an industry that is so focused on aesthetics rather than purpose. And this is enormously frustrating. You know, when we look at other groups, the architects declare, the kind of built environment declare, they're groups that are much more kind of naturally focused towards, say, carbon emissions and carbon calculations and embedded operational carbon. And I think so many kind of people in the interior design industry, it's just, you know, what does it look like? What are the trends? Is it meeting that, you know? And I think it's quite frustrating, particularly for us, that the industry is so focused on that. So I think some of the successes and some of the kind of the great milestones are not necessarily just having those numbers, although that's, you know, it's quite nice, you know, that we're managing to gain some traction. But it's really when we come together and we have those moments, whether it's a panel talk like this, or we bring in sort of architects or interior designers to talk about their projects and some of the innovative things that they're doing. Or whether it's kind of taking part in an industry-wide event. It's those kind of meeting of minds, getting the kind of collaborative conversations that we start to kind of gain some traction. We share some knowledge. We kind of realise it's not just us as a little group of people, even, you know, that number of being sort of 355, you know, there's really stuff happening. So that's the kind of fantastic thing, when we get people together, we have talks, and we feel like we're moving something on. And, you know, as well as that, as I've mentioned before, some great moments around both alcohol and pizza as well.
Right, very important moments in our life.
Really.
And I think that's it. I think once you kind of all get in a room, and I think it is, people can be so passionate about it, and if you share your wins, and there's no point in us all sitting in our studios reinventing the wheel. Like, if you've learned how to do something in a sustainable way that can benefit the environment, shout about it, share about it. And there is that lovely kind of passion between the group and anyone that kind of joins or comes to the chats and kind of learns, well, how can I be? Because I think generally deep down a lot of people want to be sustainable, but it can be quite intimidating. It can feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough, so I feel the pressure. And I think it's always been one of those things, like every little helps and every little win should be kind of shared, essentially, which is really important.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people doing so many great things, and it's a very open, welcoming group. We're not going to turn people away if they're on the beginning of their journey. It is about saying, you know, whatever you need, we've probably got an expert within the group, or we know who to contact. So it is about kind of pulling people along on that journey, no matter where they're at with it.
Totally.
Yeah, and I also think it's worth saying that we have loads of resources on the website which are updated all the time by our steering group mainly, and we also issue a newsletter about every 3 months, which has also got loads and loads of information. So those are super useful sources. Even if you aren't a signatory, you can find out loads of information and kind of have a starting point from how to find out more, because it is overwhelming, and particularly with, I think, quite a lot of us are small businesses, and the idea of trying to work out yourself how to do it, but then also how to sell to the client that you're going to be doing things in a different way, or a way that is potentially more expensive, but not always, definitely, can be quite tricky. And we've done that, so we can help.
One of the amazing milestones that we're celebrating this year is the Furniture Fire Safety Regulations campaign, which was a real example of industry moving the needle. So how has that kind of evolved, and does anyone want to kind of give a brief overview of what that was this year?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that.
Yeah.
So Delith Featherstone-Dilk is an upholsterer, and she started leading a campaign about the toxins that are in UK foam that's in a lot of our upholstered furniture. The average UK sofa is apparently, I think about 10 to 20% of it is purely chemicals. So this is having an impact on the health of upholsterers, it's having an impact on the health of people in their own homes as these chemicals are off-gassing. It's not really for anyone to worry about, but also it's affecting health and well-being of people that are in contact with that sofa, but also it's stopping those sofas being recycled, because the UK fire regulations are even more stringent than anywhere else in the world. So it means that our sofas can't actually be recycled. So that it's a real issue. So Delith has been leading that campaign with lots of upholsterers. I think she got like 6,000 signatories. And so one of the highlights really of Interior Design Decode, because it's all Delith, but we have been supporting her with giving her...
and shouting about it.
Pardon?
Yeah. And shouting about it.
We've been shouting about it. And actually on Easter Sunday, it was front page of the Sunday Times newspaper, which was like, that's amazing, actually to be creating impact like that. And so we are, part of Interior Design Declares is because we're not actually physically making anything, but getting behind campaigns that are creating a healthier planet for everyone, a healthier environment, and also just putting a bit of pressure on manufacturers of sofas. So, for example, why are any manufacturers, why are we still using foam? There are alternatives, and we should be making changes. So actually, by creating a community where we can be talking about these issues, and so therefore showing people that we don't need to be going with the status quo, because the status quo is broken in many respects. And so we should be putting pressure on suppliers to create furniture that is healthier for the planet. And so that is one of the campaigns that we've got behind, and that is, and we're really proud of where it's gone, because actually there is a consultation and people need to sign up for the consultation by the 23rd of June. So if you look at Interior Design Declare's website, please sign up to the consultation, add your name to the signature, because that's where we actually have the biggest impact. If we come together as a community and actually create change. So if we can create change with the regulation, then job done. We're all very happy.
Yeah, and I suppose just to spell it out, as well as industry pressure, this is actually going to result in, well, if we get the line, regulatory change, which... And the major problem with the current flame retardancy regulations are that they are mandatory for almost everything, and so it's very difficult as a manufacturer to do things differently currently. Whereas when these rules are changed, you won't have to use so many really toxic chemicals. So it's a double kind of a two-pronged attack. The industry and government.
Yeah. And also, like talking to furniture suppliers and furniture makers, they don't want to be putting the chemicals in. We are essentially, what they supply to Europe is completely different to what kind of comes into the UK, and it absolutely kind of creates so much more waste and obviously damages so many things. So it's interesting to see that kind of needle being moved in the right direction, which is going to obviously kind of help. So, for example, the journey of sustainable design to circular design to regenerative design is a really important journey that we should all be kind of looking at in all our different areas. So what skills do you think interior designers would benefit in gaining when it comes to designing sustainably?
Oh, well, I think we need to realise that we're part of a lot of systems. So even, the interior design industry, we have events like this, we're making things, we're designing things, we're specifying things. And I think the important thing for designers is to know that every time we specify something, we're having this impact of where does it come from, what is it that we're buying, and how long is it going to last, and then where does it go? And so it's kind of like a conscious consumption. So if that's what we should be thinking about as interior designers, not just how does it look, how quickly can I get it, what colour does it come in. It's, you know, we need to be thinking about a lot more. How is it affecting natural systems? How is it affecting human systems? Who's making it? How far has it travelled? What happens to this material? How is it being made? And so there's lots of different things that we need to be thinking about rather than just how it looks. And so we're here as Interior Design Declares to kind of help designers be part of that journey. We know that it's really, really complicated. You know, even everyone on this panel, we're all struggling with it because it's so difficult and complicated to do it. So actually, if we can just cut through all the noise and just work out this is a way forward, this is what we should be doing. So actually, we are reviewing our pledges at the moment so that each of the pledges will then have an action that interior designers can take, because a lot of the time it can be quite overwhelming. I genuinely believe that all designers and all clients want to do good. No one willingly specifies something that they know is bad. But at the same time, maybe the economics don't quite work at the moment, or maybe that people aren't aware of what they're buying and the impact that that's having. And so actually to increase awareness and move forward together, that's why we created Interior Design Declares, because it's about creating a community to share that knowledge and create change.
Yeah, brilliant, love it. And suppliers, educators, designers all sit under the IDD umbrella. So how important is that mix, and are there voices that are missing? Oliver?
Well, that was the one I didn't quite manage to answer. My notes, actually.
Well, I can ask anyone. Anyone that wants to jump in there.
I mean, we're open to sort of welcoming as many different sort of types of people in. You know, the sense of diversity is really important. Without diversity, then we're not going to start to innovate the way we think. So we do need to be welcoming more and more people who are starting their journey, people who are sort of midway through their journey, and people like the kind of brilliant people on the steering group and the founders group who are already, you know, well established on that. So
yeah, and also I'd say it's really important that there are interior designers, but also suppliers, which Emer is technically, as well as lots of other things.
And material manufacturers as well.
Yeah, manufacturers and educators. So lots of the universities who have good courses in interior design are signatories as well, so that we can kind of get their feedback about what the coming generation want, and also give them as much information as we can.
Yeah, and I think that was intentional when we named it. We didn't name it Interior Designer Declares, you know, after Architects Declares. We named it Interior Design Declares because we realised that as designers, we're not really making things ourselves. We're working within this system where we have manufacturers of everything, and so actually calling it Interior Design Declares, it means it opens it up to anyone in the interior design industry. So if you're touching this industry, come along.
Yeah. And I know that there's a lot going on with the current pledges that are being kind of renewed. Is there anything you can tell me about how that's going and when that might be in the next newsletter?
Yes, well, I can tell you that we are reviewing the pledges in line with the Design Council green skills, because we realise that we need to be aligned with other systems that are changing. I think there is, you know, most of the systems are changing now to realise that we all have impact, and so how can we make that impact all work together? So by joining up with the Design Council, we're aligning our pledges to be in line with their skills for planet. And so the pledges are still similar and they're very relevant. And what we're trying to do now is work out how to measure them as well, and also give designers actual action so that we can move from declaration to action. Because at the moment, you know, it's a pledge and it's something to sign up to, but actually, how do we put those pledges into real life? So the new pledges will be talking about giving ideas for actions, because at the moment we are still, it's a declaration, so it's difficult to measure. And so what we'd like to get to is how we can all measure, both as individuals, companies, but also then as an Interior Design Declares as a movement. If we could talk about measurement and impact, that would be great. So timing wise, it's in review. We hope to be we'll be talking about it more in June. We're having another event as part of London Climate Action Week. So we'll be having an event with Deleth talking about the campaign for the fire retardancy, and Baroness Berger. So please look out for Interior Design Declares letters about that. It's on the 22nd of June, just before the legislation date, which is the 23rd of June. So that will be a last push for that as well. And so we'll know more then, and then we would hope to be announcing the new pledges in September, probably.
Great. So we should sign up so they can get to read those.
Exactly.
So what would you say to designers in this room tonight who haven't signed the pledge? What's holding people back, and what would you tell them?
I'd say certainly sign up, because literally there's nothing to lose. We suggest a donation of £50 to join, but it's not mandatory, because we know that lots of people are really small businesses. We've got loads and loads of resources, as I already said, and as Oliver said, loads of people in the steering group have masses of experience in different areas, and everybody's very collaborative. It's also a community, and so having things like this and the various other birthday parties we've had, I have actually been really surprised how much the people who came to them have enjoyed the sense of being able to just chat rather than it being a lecture.
Because I remember back years ago, and I think I actually messaged you on LinkedIn, or you messaged me, and I knew we were doing things sustainably, and we hadn't started our B Corp journey, but I just didn't have a sustainability statement on the website. Mm-hmm. And it was just that action of going, oh yeah, I could absolutely write a very simple sustainability, and that is one of the things. Once you have a sustainability statement on your website, it's just that conscious kind of declaration, and then that actually kind of started me getting into my journey towards B Corp, because it made me kind of vocalise and quantify what I was doing. So yeah, it's very simple, and we'd love anyone to kind of get in contact if they've got any questions. But for now, I'd love to kind of reach out and see if anyone's got any questions now that they'd like to ask anyone on the panel. Yeah.
Are you guys collaborating with lighting design organisations anyway?
Not specifically, insofar as I'm very active in the lighting industry, and I would go to Rico Light and all those kind of events, and I would discuss and encourage people to look at interior design declares. Because interior design is such a huge umbrella, there's nothing stopping any more involved collaborations with other areas within the industry. So yes, if you'd like to do anything, please kind of get in contact, because things like this, this is a lighting space, so a lot of you would be either just designers or related specific to the lighting industry, but every little helps. And obviously the lighting has a huge part to play in kind of energy consumption and reuse, and there are some great people doing great things out there. So I would have a lot more kind of contact with it, but I'm always trying to get people to look at this as an organisation as well. Because again, it's just kind of bringing everyone's skill set in, because actually there's some great stuff going on in the lighting industry that could also be applied to other areas of interior design. So it's those kind of group conversations and oh, I went to this. And a lot of our meetings are who's gone to what, to kind of chat to people and what they've learned, and they'll share resources, because we're all learning, and then that might end up on the website, or it might end up in a newsletter. So yeah, it's all kind of related. Yeah.
I also think it might be worth saying that we are all interior design declares it's completely voluntary. Everybody is working without getting paid, and with the only income we have to put things on and pay for things is donations. So if you have ideas for ways that we could do things differently or additionally, and particularly if you have a bit of time and a bit of energy to help put those things into place, then that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think that would make an enormous difference for us. Over the next 5 years, is sort of achieving a decent level of continuous funding, so that we can have somebody working continuously in the background, pushing these ideas forward, marketing, communications, making sure these messages are getting out to the wider industry, and encouraging and stimulating the regenerative conversation. Totally. So yeah, I would agree that the funding is absolutely key to us moving forward and doing more.
Totally.
But also having people, in the meantime, people helping because they want to.
Because there's so many different councils, governments, companies that have, net zero by 2030, net zero by 2050, but how is that going to happen? Because if you're making all these declarations that this is what we're going to hit by, and a lot of them have changed from 2030 to 2050 because it's so difficult, but there are amazing things being done, and again, the more we chat, the more we share, the more we kind of celebrate the tiniest of wins and encourage people to not get so overwhelmed. I feel the overwhelm can be really a blocker to progress. So it's literally the kind of the smallest of changes that can ripple through is fantastic to kind of share. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
I'm going to be cheeky and step in because I'm one of the steering members as well. Just to say that if I was to encourage more people to come and join us, it would be builders, because I don't know if anybody here, but when you work with builders, they just want to chuck it in the skip. And I've been working so hard the last few days saying, look, just put it downstairs. I'm going to have a Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to get hold of Enviro waste systems. I don't know if anybody's used them, so get a quote. It's cheaper than getting a skip. Anyway, so that's working on getting a kitchen maker to reuse the kitchen that we're taking out, to build it into the new kitchen. What else? I just got my glasses on, can't read my notes. Flooring, yes. So today I was working with a super company, the British wood flooring company. Right, can you take up this walnut floor and make it into another floor? No, I can't. Why not? Because it's stuck onto ply. I said, okay, so seriously, because you're about to make me a Versailles parquet floor in the hallway. And I said, can't you just like cut it up, take it to the mill, shave off the ply? And he said, oh yeah, we could. So sometimes it's just a question of pushing and pushing harder and pushing again. And then actually he said, that would make a really nice project. I really like that story. It's on my website, so we're going to do it.
Yeah, amazing.
And the other one, sofas. So there's a very nice sofa company on Pimlico Road. They cost a lot of money, and then you look at them. Yes, it's made in the UK, but they still use latex and foam. So I sent them an email. I said, well, can you not use natural latex? Email comes back. Yes, we can. It might be a little bit more expensive. So I'm going to get back to them again and say, well, hang on a minute. I am saving you a little bit of money, so can you just drop the price a bit? But I think you will get through. So again, it's just sometimes you just have to use if you're passionate like we all are, you just use your initiative, use your brain, keep pushing, don't take no for an answer, and then actually people get really excited coming on board with you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I totally agree actually. I do think part of the problem with the industry is that people just aren't asking those questions, and so actually when you do start asking the questions, then people do want to come on the journey with you. So I would say yes, fully encouraging people to question where things are coming from, why can't this be ripped out and resold, or why, in 5 years' time, for example, if we could insert tiles that then could be then just taken off, or marble slabs that could be taken off, or any kind of material that could just be removed so that we could actually work towards a more circular industry, that would be great. Because at the moment the industry just isn't set up like that. Things are glued for good, and then it makes them really hard to reuse.
Yeah, glued with not very nice.
Yeah,
exactly.
Off-gassing toxins.
And actually,
Exactly,
it
all
can
of
save companies money. Like I've heard like lighting manufacturers that have changed to screws instead of glue, and it's saved them money down the line. And the R&D department are delighted. And it is those little changes that can actually save you money, and they're the ones we really need to shout about, because
I think design has an enormous role to play in this sort of creativity and the innovation. I was working with a flooring company for some years, and they have just designed this little sticky tile called a tactile, and they hold down entire kind of flooring, sort of carpet tiles, with these tiny little squares. It's just the sort of dead weight of the carpet tile, and then you can just pick the carpet tile up and remove it. You remove the sticky tile, and that's it. The carpet can be recycled, cleaned, reused, whatever.
Amazing.
So it's just that innovation. So
Yeah.
it's such a simple little thing, rather than, like you say, the entire floor with a formaldehyde-based glue that's going to off-gas and render this tile utterly useless forever.
And if more interior designers are asking that, like how are we going to replace this in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, then the companies are going to see the value in changing the way that they supply stuff. And that's the thing, the more questions that we get asked, then it's going to be encouraging for every kind of supplier to really think about what is their life cycle, cradle to cradle, what is going to happen to your product in 20 years' time.
Yeah, and to add to that, while we would really encourage everybody to ask their own suppliers, one thing we can do, pushing interior design declares to be collective, is that we can make a noise together, and it's louder and listened to more. We do that.
Excellent. Any more questions? Oh, yeah, here you go.
Just going back to the builders checking stuff. I'm from up north in Queensland, but in Carlisle there's a company called, I think it's called the Rebuild. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rebuild.
Yeah.
Or rebuild, and it's actually the daughter of Story Rail, Story Construction, Story Homes, so lots of construction. And they've set up a yard
Yeah.
in their house, and instead of materials going into skips and tips, it's donated. And initially I think they just started running it with volunteers, but now I think it's grown so big that it's making money and employing people.
Great.
So I was just thinking, because she's quite, the daughter of Story, she's quite active, she comes down to London quite a lot, so
Yeah.
might be worth having a look at that.
Yeah.
If there's anything London-based or...
There are lots
Yeah.
of those sorts of things that exist, but they're all relatively small and not very well known about. So,
Yeah.
the more of them they are, and the more publicised they are, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why the community aspect is so important, because we then can share that knowledge. So I went to Tipping Point East last week, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with, but that's London's first circular design hub for the building industry. So they are ripping out doors and they're keeping the doors, reconditioning them and sending them out. But it's actually getting awareness from this Tipping Point East out to the industry so that there is demand, because it all comes down to economics at the end of the day. So, it's all well and good to we can all have the best intentions, but it needs to make economical sense for everyone. So that's a really key thing. And so that's why we can use our voice as a collective to really help shift the dial on things like that.
So sharing that place that you just mentioned, and then this place in London, and the more we know is like I'm working up here, and just adding value to waste. Like, so that we're not thinking of it as waste is waste. Like it's only an infinite amount of resources, so it has to be used better for sure. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's probably going to require a lot of funding, but in terms of creating awareness and that sort of thing, it would be amazing to see, I don't know, some enormous project that was done entirely with, renewable materials in some way. I was just sort of trying to strategise the back, like how you could get to all the labour that's around to do that, or some, I don't know, incredibly sort of well-funded organisations that might be willing to do that.
Yeah, we'll join us and we can work it out.
There's a good project down in Brighton by an architect called Duncan Baker Brown called the Waste House. And the entire house is built using materials and resources from within about 30 miles of the location, which is at Brighton University. So they've sort of filled the wall with recycled toothbrushes from Gatwick Airport, and covered clad the walls in old carpet tiles. The creativity and the innovation. It's actually amazing, but it's quite iconic. It has lasted surprisingly well. They've also built lots of the walls with sort of crushed limestone or chalk. So it
looks good from the outside. It's still looking good.
Yeah, it is.
There,
Yeah, I drive past quite often.
Yeah.
I mean, on my bike.
Yeah.
Yes, just in case anyone was asked, I cycle a lot.
But that's kind of used as an education piece, isn't it? Like, and it's used as a case study, which is exactly this. Like, imagine there was another one up in London that you can try out all these things. And there are amazing kind of design and build companies that are doing great projects and reusing and kind of getting in and also measuring their carbon. So they want to reuse, metal tiles on their floor that embody like loads of carbon that can be offset against their project. And that's their incentivization, is that they want to hit a certain kind of carbon level. And the more examples and techniques that we know about and we can share about, people get excited about, and then they roll it out. Then they can present it to their customers and kind of, do. And the more it happens, like these reclaim yards, if there's enough money going to them, then they're going to keep on bringing in more items to be resold. So we need to share that more as well.
Yeah, there's a company that I have heard about recently which effectively recycles windows, particularly patio type windows, sliding doors, which obviously is super popular, and they're quite often they don't fit with the new scheme, so they're just chucked out, but actually they're perfectly usable, and so you can go and buy for a fraction of the cost of a new set, which would be like 10 grand or something. something that works perfectly well, looks perfectly okay, and hasn't gone into landfill, hasn't created, taken up energy to produce new ones. So yeah, that's one really good example of how to reuse.
Great. Any other questions? We got one more at the back. Yeah. And then I will let you all go to the bar straight after this one.
Hi, I'm Brian Murphy. I have been a specification consultant with my kind of primary career, and I'm slightly concerned by your saying, ask the supplier. Why aren't we writing the specifications? Do we write specifications in interiors?
Well, a lot of interior designers, we're specifying, but when you say write the specification, I'm specifying a couch or a light. Generally, we start with what does it look like, what does it cost, where am I getting it from? And actually, part of the move towards a more sustainable or regenerative mindset is understanding more about where those things come from and what's the impact on the ecology and what's the impact on the humans making it. But we're just not there at the moment because a lot of interior designers also are very small companies, and so we don't have time to write a full specification for every product. But it's something that we would like to get towards, I think. And you know, as Interior Design declares, we will be talking to members about these are the questions we should be asking our suppliers. But quite often, it's just a matter of not having the time to write a full specification for every single thing that we're buying.
A ready-made specification that has all of those wonderful products that you've all enjoyed specifying and choosing would be a very useful resource on your website, I would imagine.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I'm volunteering.
Brilliant. I was come on board.
Right.
Amazing. Okay.
Please come help.
Yeah,
Just about to ask.
Yeah, because we do actually have a specifier questionnaire, a supplier questionnaire that we've looked at. But that is, you know, it talks about how the materials and where the materials are coming from and the waste and what happens to the waste. But that's quite onerous for some of the suppliers to fill out. So actually, if you can help us create something that we can be sending out to people, then 100% we're super interested. And yeah, let's meet up after I put the mic down.
And then I also think it's on that particular subject, it is inevitable that lots of people buy design products for the house that aren't specified by interior designers, so they go to Wayfair or whatever, and so you're not going to them and saying, I want this to be made to these particular, you're just buying off the shelf. So it's, in that case, it's more useful to lobby the manufacturer than to just, well, that it's unrealistic to specify.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks everyone. There's loads of the steering group actually in and around, so we'll all be here for a while, so please ask any questions. Check out the website, sign up if this is at all interesting, and we've got our pledges coming soon, and the bar is open. Cool. Thanks everyone.